There we go. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me today. I am really glad to have you here and to be sharing with you my first webinar. It's a very exciting time, busy day for Naturally Cats today. First webinar and the shop being going live at 12, but more of that later. So I just wanted to share with you today about cats and self-selection. So first of all, who am I? So some of you know me from being a client with me with a cat or with my meditation classes, but to others, this could be the first interaction you've had with me. So I just wanted to say hello and to let you know who I am. So my name's Julianne. I'm the founder of Naturally Cats. I created Naturally Cats because my previous cat picker was very, very poorly. And I wanted to find a way that I could help her using a holistic approach. And everywhere that I looked, I had help from my vet, he was brilliant, but I wanted more. So I created Naturally Cats because I want to help other cats. I call myself a holistic feline behaviorist because it's kind of easier for people to understand. So if you say that you're a behaviorist, people understand what that relates to. People know that you deal with problem behaviors or cat behavior. Actually, what I am is a holistic feline practitioner. So I don't just look at behavior, I look at all elements of the cat's environment. So I look at, environment enrichment, I look at the any behavior problems, but I also look at relationships with other people and animals in the house, the diet, nutrition. So I am, I look at the whole picture. I'm also a pet bereavement counsellor. So Pickle was put to sleep about 18 months, maybe 2 years ago. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. And I really wanted to channel my grief to be something productive and to help other people. So I trained to be a pet bereavement counsellor. I'm also a cat mum, so you can see the picture there as I was talking to a few of you earlier on. This is the lovely Leo. So he has a slightly tipped ear. He was part of a trap, neuter and return program because he was previously feral. And now he has settled in really, really well. He still has some shy sort of hideaway tendencies, but he's really, really beginning to flourish with us. And then lastly, I'm a crazy cat lady. So I'm embracing that stereotype, and it is my mission to change the world's perception of cats. So I'm not just helping cats because I feel drawn to it. I really want to change the perception of them. I want people to understand that they are just an amazing species, amazing beings. And, I want to help people see how awesome they are. So today's topic, self-selection. What is it? So I think I use self-selection in different ways, and I'll come on to kind of my definition in a moment. But self-selection is also known as zoopharmacognosy, which is a really long word. And when you break it down, it basically means animal remedy knowing. So it's an animal's innate capacity to know what it needs. And when it's given the opportunity, it can self-select medicinal compounds in and around their habitat. So Caroline Ingram has done so much work. She's a pioneer in the field of applied zoopharmacognosy. Now, applied zoopharmacognosy is when we bring the capacity for the animals to select what they need to heal into their homes, into our houses. So she's got a great book called How Animals Heal Themselves, and I'll share all the book resources that I recommend when I do the follow-up email with the webinar recording. But I firmly believe that applied zoopharmacognosy or self-selection, whichever you want to call it, is how we can enrich the lives of our cats. So the two pictures you can see there, they are from Elizabeth Whiter, who I recently did a Facebook Live with. We talked about how you can heal your cat using natural remedies. And these two pictures of when she worked with an ocelot. And the top one, the ocelot is in the infirmary, and it's basically rolling around on a load of catnip. And the second picture at the bottom is the ocelot selecting rose oil on a piece of fabric. So you can see, and I put these pictures in here because I wanted to show you that although zoopharmacognosy and how animals self-medicate the research started with wild animals, it can absolutely transfer to our domesticated cats. So there's another book called Wild Health by Cindy Engel. And it's really, really great because it talks about the science of self-selection. It talks about monkeys and parrots that were sourcing out plants in their environment, which weren't typically known to be nutritious or to use as a foodstuff, but they were using them to help with illnesses that they had, whether it was mites under their wings, so parrots would select certain clays. And Wild Health, the book really kind of explains the background behind it a little bit more. So if you want to do more reading, I'd absolutely advocate that book. So my definition of self-selection, for those of you that know me with Naturally Cats, I am all about giving cats a voice. So you'll see at the bottom of every slide here, giving cats a voice is my hashtag, and it's something that I want to take over the world with, because I want people to know that they can give their cats a voice, they can give them a choice. So the definition of self-selection is, the action of selecting something for oneself. When you put that in terms of remedies, that links to the zoopharmacognosy with the remedy and the knowing element. But if you think about it with cats, we have so much more capacity to use self-selection in their environment with regards to their resources. So we can think, we can put down more than one scratching post. We can give them an opportunity to have high levels around their house. And yes, this is potentially called environment enrichment, but again, it's all about giving the cat, an option, the opportunity to decide what they want to do. As humans, we have a controlling nature. When we feel that we're in control, we feel comfortable, we feel calm, and we can kind of cope with what's going on. And if you think about it, that's the same with cats. But they don't really have much control of their environment, because as humans, we're the ones that put where their litter tray is, we're the ones that put the food down at a certain time, etc. So for me, self-selection isn't just about the remedies, although that is what we're going to be covering today. Self-selection is also about seeing things from the cat's perspective, sharing the control of the cat's environment with the cat. Giving them an opportunity to decide whether they want to use a vertical scratching post today or a horizontal scratching post today. And I tell you, when you start to work with your cat to give them a choice, to enhance their environment, it really affects your relationship with your cat in such a deep, positive way. So we'll come on to benefits in a few moments of self-selection and of using remedies. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a high-level overview about the science behind it. Now, I use a lot of my intuition when I'm working with cats. Obviously, I've done a lot of training to understand their signs, their signals. So I'm not going to go too much into the science today. Like I said, there are some books that cover it. Caroline's book, the Cindy Wild Health book, both of those have some really great information if you want to delve more into the science. But for today, I wanted to give you the kind of high-level overview that I use with my clients. So it's the difference between food and remedies. So a question that I get asked quite a lot is, how do I know my cat is self-selecting? How do I know my cat's not eating the spirulina in sunflower oil because they're hungry? And the difference is what I've put on here. So primary and secondary metabolites. So it's a different makeup, it's a different compound, it's a different, the way the chemical or the item is put together. So primary metabolites are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, and they provide energy for the body. They help the body to do all the processes that it needs to do to heal, digestion and breathing and things like that. And with a primary metabolite, when you're full, when you're satiated, you stop eating. So I've put there pasta as a human example, obviously not for cats. So, primary metabolites is where the hunger gets triggered, is where we know we need to take in energy. Secondary metabolites are chemicals used by plants for purposes other than growth and reproduction. So it's not about the processes, it's about maintaining homeostasis and having balance and well-being in the body. So they don't provide any metabolic value. They don't make you feel full. They don't affect your hunger drive. But with the secondary metabolites, it's all about that extra sort of top up. It's about the extra nutrients. And it's about how do people, or how do cats know when they've had enough I'm going to come on to something in a minute called bitter propensity theory. Again, not too much of the science today. But basically, when it comes to secondary metabolites, and this is where we know that the cat has selected enough of what they need, the body's response changes. So for example, when I did my training with Caroline years ago, to demonstrate this point, she brought some humans up to the front of the class and offered them lemon powder. Now, one lady tasted it, tasted really bitter. Second lady tasted it, she said it tasted lovely. And she had 2 or 3 sort of finger dips of it. And then after 3, I think it was, 3, maybe 4, she said, oh no, I don't like it now, it tastes bitter. So it's a really simple example to demonstrate that the body's response will change when we know we've had enough. So that's kind of the difference between primary and secondary metabolites, the difference between food and a remedy. So the bitter propensity theory and sensory modulation theory, both of those are discussed in Caroline's book. And as I said, the bitter propensity theory is about the taste response. The response to a remedy changes when you've taken on board enough. So if you're interested to learn more about them, like I said, completely advocate you get the books, and I'll add the resources at the end. So there's a couple of points just to make a couple of points to share with you when it comes to using remedies. And again, we're going to cover different types of remedies in a moment. But there's a couple of golden rules. The first of all is not to add it to your food, not to add it to your cat's food. And the reason for this is it doesn't give the cat a choice. So this isn't like they need food to survive, they need food to, to live every day. Remedies are considered, complementary to the natural diet. And if what we think a cat may need, the cat may not need. So the picture I've put in the bottom corner there is 2 small saucers that I have on a shoebox in my office just behind me. And the one on the left is hemp macerated oil, and the one on the right is spirulina powder in sunflower oil. Now I put those down for Leo to self-select as and when he needs to, and I'm rotating them. We had St. John's wort macerated oil down last week and he wasn't interested, left it down for a week, didn't go near it. The spirulina, he will come to and fro. So he has different times maybe in the cycle of his body, or if we've changed his medication, and he can self-select it as and when he needs to, because he doesn't necessarily need it every day and every meal. It's like a human. If you think about when you need to take, for example, a headache tablet, you don't take it every day, you take it as and when you need to. And that's the point that it replicates to our cats. Also, what is one animal's food is another animal's medicine, or as we said before, the well-being, the supplements, the top-ups, the nutrients. So horses eat grass and they consider it food, whereas cats will eat grass when they need to potentially purge a hairball. So every cat is different and all the species are different. And the 2 key takeaways when you're using remedies with your cats is to trust that the cat will take what they need. And that's really, really key. So when it comes to remedies, you keep offering until the interest wanes, because basically what you want to happen is you don't want your cat to be selecting remedies because you want them to be fit, healthy and well. But we use remedies to support their well-being, and it's about knowing what can help them and giving them the opportunity to choose it, giving them the opportunity to select it, to use their voice, to have control of their environment. So, onto the benefits of using self-selection. So, the gorgeous picture of Juvia in the top right-hand corner. She's a client of mine that I'm working with in Costa Rica, and she is in love with her herb garden. She absolutely adores it. I was actually sent a video by her guardian yesterday of her selecting frankincense essential oil on a piece of cloth as well. She'd had a really stressful experience with a dog that had walked past the house, and she was able to self-soothe. She was able to deal with the stresses of her environment by herself. So what are the benefits when we use remedies with our cat and we use self-selection? I tell you, it just makes such a big difference. The relationship between you and your cat will go to another level. We don't just see them as pets, they don't just see us as humans. There's a deeper species connection. They understand that you're giving them a voice. They understand that you're looking at them differently. They understand that you're giving up some of the control to them, that they have the capacity to cope with the stresses and strains in their environment. It also helps humans to just take a step back, to just slow down. I don't know about you guys, but I am constantly busy. And when I'm working with remedies with Leo, it gives me a great opportunity to just pause, to just be present with him, to observe what he's doing, to observe how he is. And it's amazing to be in that moment with that cat. Their time scale, their time clock is very, very different to humans. As you know, they sleep a lot, of which I'm a little bit jealous. But everything's just slower. Everything is in the moment. Everything is present. They are so mindful. It's amazing to observe. So when you start to use remedies with your cat, it helps you to pause. It helps you to be present. And it helps you to see the wonder that occurs when the cat is able to self-soothe and to self-select. Remedies are really, really great for worry breeds. So I'm currently working with a ragdoll who's having some real sort of stress and territory issues. And to be honest, I put worry breeds, but actually any cat who is dealing with anxiety or stress or worry, in fact, most cats have got some sort of issue going on, whether that's territory, they've got a particularly difficult home environment. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. But remedies are a great way to support your cat and to help them process their emotional state. So, what are remedies? I give the term remedies to all the kind of things that I use when I'm working with cats, Leo and Pickle, and my clients. So I've put a list there, everything from essential oils to dried herbs and everything in between. So for example, there are some remedies that can overlap. So you can get calendula or marigold as dried flowers. You can get it as a macerated oil, and you can also get it as an essential oil. So remedies can come in different formats. There are others, for example, barley grass, which can only come as a powder. So there is no right and wrong when it comes to trying a remedy with your cat. One point I would note is essential oils are very different. They're very potent. Even the soft, flowery ones, like jasmine, they still need respect, and you still need to know what you're doing when you use them with your cats. I'm going to talk very briefly about essential oils in a moment, but there will be a separate webinar because it is a very, very big topic. And there are some really key fundamental elements that you need to understand if you're working with essential oils and your cat. I'm not trying to scare anybody, I'm just trying to be honest. There's a lot of press given to essential oils and how they're bad for cats, and that's because they've been misused. A cat being shaved and then having tea tree oil applied all over its skin. That's not how you use essential oils with cats. So the other point to note is that it doesn't really matter which remedy you try, apart from essential oils, as long as you're trying something. When you know what to look for, when you know how to read the reactions of your cats, which we'll come on to, the world is your oyster. I mean, I was talking to Nyana Morag yesterday. Again, she's got another great book, Essential Oils for Animals. She also talks about hydrosols. Nyana and I are going to be bringing out a book together called The Aromatic Cat, talking about how to use remedies with your cats. And when Nyana and I were talking yesterday, she said, have you ever used spirulina with water? And I said, no, I always use it with a carrier oil. So there's no right or wrong. You can explore and try something with your cat, see what happens. So there are many different formats of remedies, and what I would say is if you're completely new to remedies, completely new to self-selection, dried herbs are a great place to start. You literally can't get it wrong. So you put down a towel or a blanket on the floor, you put a little bit of say 3 or 4 herbs each corner of the blanket, and you watch what your cat does. Some of them will roll around, some of them will wrap themselves up in the blanket, some of them will start to go crazy and start tearing around the room. Others will just sit there. Cats are such sensitive beings that they pick up on the energy of the remedies. You don't need to have the lid off the essential oil. You don't need to waft it under their nose. Same with hydrosols and even the powders. Cats are such energetic beings. They work with the energy of the remedy. So some cats on a herb garden might just sit sit near it, sit on it. And when they're sat and they're kind of, you know, content and relaxed, that's just as powerful as rolling around all over the garden. So just bear in mind, when you start to work with remedies, don't have any expectations. As humans, we want to see their reaction, we want to know that it's helping, and you need to take a step back and you need to let that go, because every cat will deal with it differently depending on what their emotional, physical or mental state is. And if a cat just comes over and sits near a herb, that is selection, that is helping. So dried herbs, the Naturally Cat shop, shameless plug, Naturally Cat shop is opening at 12 o'clock today, where you'll be able to buy dried herbs for your cats. So I'll be selling 4 or 6 dried herbs. So you can buy a complete herb garden for your cat. All you need to do is provide the blanket or the towel. So put it down, give it a go, you know, see if it helps your cat, see if you notice that they're more playful afterwards, or their mobility is improved. Give it a go, you've got nothing to lose. So I mentioned about cats and essential oils. Like I said, I'm going to briefly touch on it because I think it is important when you're talking about self-selection. So cats lack an enzyme called glucuronidtransferase. And again, not going to go into the science of it. It's basically to do with their liver. They don't break down toxins the same way that other animals do. So for cats, 90% of the time, in fact 95% of the time, they process the healing properties of essential oils through inhalation. So like I said, I would normally start with the lid on an essential oil, holding it in my hand from a distance. That picture on the left, I was working with a cat in a rescue centre. We tried other remedies. He was very unresponsive. He was very shut down, as you can imagine cats in rescue centres are. They're very stressed, they're very anxious, they're very, very withdrawn. And I offered him jasmine, which is a lovely supportive oil. It's a hug in a bottle, basically. And I offered it to him with the lid off to try to open him up to healing, to try to give him emotional support. But as you can see, it's still at quite a big distance. The camera angle is slightly drawn to that one, but it was, you know, it was quite a way away. So working with cats and essential oils, they are brilliant. I have seen so many cats work with essential oils and the results are amazing. You just need to know what you're doing. I would definitely recommend you either work with a trained practitioner or you look to get some training yourself when it comes to using essential oils with cats. To do it properly, you get amazing results. So I've talked a bit about this already, but I just wanted to discuss, you know, what you're doing, what to do when you're doing a session with your cat, what to do when you are offering remedies and you're going to, you know, offer some support. You're going to give your cat a voice. So first thing is to set the scene. Don't do it when, you know, your husband or your wife is due home from work, or the kids have just got in from school, or, you know, you've got 10 minutes before you've got to go out. Remember what I said about humans being, you know, rushing all the time? Take some time to find the environment to set the scene. At the moment, we've got a herb garden down in the dining room. It's in the corner of the dining room. And that's not because I want it out of the way. It's because there isn't a lot of foot traffic in that part of the house. So as and when Leo decides to go onto the herb garden, he has the capacity to take time out to listen. To take some time out to heal, sorry. And for cats, that's really important. They are predator animals. So any form of vulnerability is a sign of weakness. Even if you've only got one cat in the house, trust me, they will not show vulnerability easily. So they need to have the space, they need to have the capacity to be vulnerable and to heal. You know, it's like you go for a massage yourself or a therapy session. You know, you need to be in the right frame of mind. It needs to be the right environment. You don't talk to a counsellor, for example, in a busy coffee shop. You don't want to feel exposed, and it's the same with cats. So find the right place in the house to do the remedy work with the animal, with the cat. Start with gentle remedies, as I mentioned before. Starting with a herb garden is a great idea. If you're trained more in remedies and you know how to use, you know, hydrosols and essential oils, even still, starting with a herb garden gives you an idea of what the cat needs support with. So, for example, if I was going to put a herb garden down and I wanted to see if the cat was suffering with pain, I wouldn't put all pain herbs down or inflammation herbs down. I'd put down a mixture. And knowing which the cat either sits with or chews, licks, rubs on, rolls on, gives me an indication, okay, so we need to deal with pain remedies today, or we need to deal with trust remedies today, for example. So start with gentle nurturing remedies. Be patient, watch and observe. So don't sit there with your phone in your hand, checking your emails, going on Pinterest. Put your phone away and be in the moment with your cat. Yes, you might want to take the odd picture, and I completely understand that. I could watch a cat on a herb garden or even with any form of remedies all day, every day. But just be in the moment and watch what your cat is doing. As I said before, they're really sensitive, and they're really deep, energetic beings. So just be in the moment with your cat to enjoy that. So I've put a table here about which are signs of processing. And cats are really, really subtle. So like I said, most humans expect their cat to go on a herb garden or to select remedies and to just see this really big response, you know, a physical change, or like I said, they're rolling on the herb garden or the remedies, and it doesn't always work that way. In fact, that's actually unusual. With cats, it's a lot more subtle. So I'm going to go from right to left. So if you're offering a remedy to a cat, and I'm talking essential oil, hydrosol powder, or herb garden, or dried herb, doesn't matter. Signs of no selection, so signs that they're not really interested, generally are quite obvious. So they will leave the room, for example. They might walk away, might go to the other corner of the room. There might be no change in reaction. So they will be very clear with you, whether they're interested or not. There are some signs which can be mistaken as non-selection. There are really rare occasions when a cat will demonstrate a behavior which we perceive as being negative. So growling, hissing, crying, panting. Generally, when you're working with remedies, that means that it's an emotional release. It's blocked energy, it's blocked emotion. I had a cat last week who sat with linden blossom, the dried herb, which is to help build trust. The guardian had placed it on the floor. It was near her throat chakra. And all of a sudden there was a fly on the wall, and the cat gave 3 really long hisses and deep growling. And her guardian said to me, that's really unusual. She's never reacted that way to a fly before. Now, from my perspective, I think what happened was the fly was actually a trigger, and with the support of the remedy, she was able to release this blocked emotion. She'd actually been shot with an air rifle years before, not from her guardian, obviously. So she has an issue with trusting humans. So if you're working with cats and remedies and they show one of these negative reactions, just bear in mind that actually it could be a release of energy, which is exactly what you want. And also it will pass. So just be in the moment, give the cat some soothing words, words of reinforcement, talk calmly and lovingly to it. Make sure you don't touch the cat, just let them process the emotion, let them process the energy and the healing. It will pass. And generally, in my experience, what I found is that when the cat has exhibited one of those behaviors, it's then followed by a really deep sleep or a really deep sigh. They really kind of, take a breath and come down. They sink into the healing that then follows. So the last column is basically the signs that cats will show when they are selecting a remedy. And this is where, as humans, we need to change our thinking. So when you're working with the cat and remedies, you need to kind of forget about normal cat behavior. And I say that because if you're offering a remedy to a cat and they're closing their eyes, they're slowly blinking, they're not going to sleep. If you offer a remedy to a cat who's currently sort of stood on all fours, it shows, some form of selection, or it just sits down, and does a loaf, as we call it, or legs tucked under. It doesn't mean that they're not interested. Those are signs of processing. So cats are super, super subtle. This is why you need to not be on your phone or be distracted. This is why you need to be in the moment with your cat. So a slight twitch of the ear, the eyes are so expressive, slow closing. Sometimes you might see actual nostril flaring. They might move towards the remedy. They might move their head, move a part of their body. They might turn around and sit down if they've got back pain. They might position their pain towards their back towards the oil to deal with the pain. They may stretch out. They may lie down. Sometimes they just freeze. And this is a real difference between the signs of no selection. So having no change in reaction or behavior, you can tell the cat is like sort of just looking around and hasn't really moved, not really bothered. But if the cat goes into a trance-like state, they will be fixed on the oil. They will just look at the oil and not move. And you may not see any other signs around their face, but they are just in that moment. They're in a trance-like state with that remedy. And if you go to move it slightly, you'll notice that they move with it because they're not finished. So there's quite a big list of remedies of signs, when it comes to positive remedy selection. And as I said, it takes a while. I've had a cat work with a remedy for 40 minutes. You know, others take 5, 10, 20 minutes. It depends what remedy you're using. It depends what the cat's issues are. So just be mindful when you're working with your cat that you need to look at them differently. So where do you start when it comes to remedies? Which version should you use? So for example, marigold. Do you use the dried herb? Do you use the macerated oil? Or do you use the essential oil? As I said, there's no right or wrong. Start with what you're comfortable with. Start with where you want to experiment. The reason that Pickle on the left there, she's having some macerated oil from my fingers because she would never lick it from a saucer. Whereas Leo's the exact opposite. He won't take anything from my hand. It's always got to be on a saucer. So you need to know your cat, know what they're comfortable with, know how they're likely to respond to remedies. Sometimes cats need permission, and that I think is very sad, but actually just goes to show how much we have control over them. Some cats will need to have reassurance from you that it's okay to heal. They'll need reassurance from you that it's okay to be vulnerable, to be exposed, to deal with those remedies. So I had a couple of weeks ago who said to me that she put the herbs down, cat wasn't interested. And then she went and sat next to the herb garden, started talking to the cat, encouraging it over. She literally said the words, "It's okay to heal," and he rubbed all over the herb garden. So you see, they are such sensitive, emotional beings. Sometimes they need our help. But what I would say is give it a go, see where you're comfortable. Trying with herbs is a really safe way. Nothing can go wrong. When it comes to herbs, you know, you can expect a cat, like I said, to roll on them, rub them, play with them, lick them, eat them. I had another client who the cat ate, I think it was all 10 grams of valerian that I sent. This is the one with the air rifle shot. She's suffering with immense pain. She snuffled up the whole lot, which is unusual. But again, she needs that support inside. She needs that help to find that well-being, to find that state of balance. So don't panic if your cat eats the dried herb. They will only take in what they need, and you need to have faith in that. You need to trust in your cat's ability to be able to self-medicate. So that's it. We've come to the end for today. These are ways that you can get in touch with me: Facebook, Instagram, email, and the website. So as I mentioned, the shop's going live at 12 today, which will be from the website. If you've got any pictures of your cats enjoying remedies, using self-selection, please tag me. Use the hashtag giving cats a voice. Like I said, I want it to be global. I want us to help people realize how awesome cats are. I want us to help people realize how much they can support the environment and the emotional state of their cats. So get in touch with me. So finally, I saw this picture years ago and I absolutely love it. So I thought I'd add that onto the presentation today. So I'm just going to come out of the presentation and head back to the Zoom call to see if I can find if anybody's got any questions. So bear with me just 1 second. Okay, so if you've got any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. So whilst I've got the cameras back on, this is the book from Cindy Angel, which is the Wild Health book. So here she talks about the examples of different animals using self-selection, and the examples are really interesting. She talks about, you know, the parrots, the monkeys who used plants that were bitter to help with stomach issues. This is the book from Nyana Morag, Essential Oils for Animals. Like I said, she talks about hydrosols. This is an old cover. She talks about essential oils, but she also talks about hydrosols and how to dilute remedies as well, which is something that we haven't covered today. And then finally, this is the book, the first book from Caroline, How Animals Heal Themselves. So this one talks about the bitter propensity theory, and has got the breakdown of all remedies. So if you need to know what to select and what to offer, this book's great. It talks about herb gardens with cats. You know, it's a really, really great book. And Caroline's actually got a second one out, which is a lot thicker, but I couldn't hold up, so didn't bring it for the webinar. So Gabrielle, which herbs to start with? Great question. Depends what you're trying to deal with, I would say. So I would recommend a general, from the Naturally Cats website, I would recommend a general herb garden. So if you've never used self-selection with your cat before, you need to sort of, like I said, do it slowly, because for them to realise that you're starting to listen can be a bit of a shock. So a general herb garden has got, I think it's valerian, chamomile, marigold and rose, I think. Now, the herbs all overlap, so you can have one herb that will do different things. So for example, valerian is in the anxiety herb garden, it's also in the pain herb garden. And again, the cat will take it for whatever they need it for. So it doesn't matter if the cat's not in pain, if the cat's got anxiety, they will, if they choose to, they will select valerian. If you're dealing with, you know, trust issues, if you've got a new cat that you've just brought into the home, I would definitely recommend things like linden blossom. That helps to build trust. Rosebuds are really, really nurturing, really emotionally supportive. In fact, I think rosebuds are in more than half of the herb gardens because they're great. And also the cats might use them to play with, you know, every evening. I'm at the top of our banister and flicking a little rose down the steps, down the stairs, because Leah loves to play with them. So it brings out that fun side of them as well. So it really depends what you're trying to help with. But, you know, start off with something and see what your cat's response is. Okay, any other questions before we wrap it up for today? So the recording will be available, and as I said, you can always contact me either Facebook or Instagram or email if you've got any other questions. Okay, let's just give it a minute. Your cat laid in the sage spot. Oh, that's lovely. See, so it's great when people have, you know, when you offer dried herbs. Nyana talked about when we did our Facebook live, she talked about something called a herb bouquet, which she talked about having, you know, live flowers, you know, cut flowers and offering them to cats. I'm a little bit more cautious with that, only because I think, you know, she's in Portugal. In the UK, if you Google safe plants for cats, there's so many different lists, and one plant will be on a good list and one plant will be and the same plant will be on a bad list. So I always think with dried herbs that are formats of aromatic, so those that have essential oils, those that are plant-based, that the cats would usually come into contact with, I think they're safer, but that's just my experience and my opinion. But it's great to see, you know, I would advise clients, you know, plant some fresh catnip in your garden, plant rose, you know, things that the cat, if they are outdoor cats, can rub up against, because that's how cats basically release the properties when they're in the wild, when they're in the garden. And if you've got indoor cats, bring them indoors, you know, put down a dried herb garden or bring some plants inside. But as I said, just a note of caution, I would only ever have plants indoors that you can get, you know, the essential oil or remedy version of, just because they're safer. And ultimately trust that the cat will select what it needs. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. I really hope that you've enjoyed the webinar today. And like I said, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to get in touch. And I look forward to seeing you at the next one. So have a lovely weekend, and I will catch you soon.